Welcome to the second day of Speed Chess Championship Finals. Now we have Denis Lazavik versus Hikaru Nakamura and the super final between Magnus and Alireza. Let's quickly walk you through the match for the third place. Hikaru was playing Denis, and that was fun. There were a lot of fireworks, a lot of decisive games, but let's see who prevailed. So, e4 5, Denis plays with black piece. I'll show you 2 games from this match and 2 games from Magnus Alireza. There are just a lot of things, so I could go through many of the decisive games, but I selected like some of them because I don't want to make like our video for you. So a6, we have Rai Lopez on the board, b5 and bishop c5, so-called Arkhangelsk variation. Rook goes to b8, all very normal. h6, knight d5, now knight goes to e7 and knight g6. Very common idea for this opening. Now queen f6, bishop b6, and the position is equal. So Hikaru took some space in the middle. Queen e7, queen c7, bishop d7, b8, and what Denis is trying to do, he's trying to create counterplay on b file. So he plays b4, he plays takes, and now queen c5, attack in f2, and he still has a lot of pressure on b2. So Hikaru goes back, now knight f4, and knight comes to d3 with a serious pressure. And bishop c2 to protect from this threat actually allows knight e2. So it's not possible to protect from both threats all at once. So rook a5 is played, queen c8, knight d2, and rook b2, knight c4, bishop h3, brilliant bishop sacrifice. Now knight cannot take this rook because this is pinned on c file. And rook a3, you might be wondering what happens after g takes h3. I mean, the position simply collapses. I believe knight h3 is good enough, and then rook f2, and it's all over. So we have rook a3 on the board, rook b1 takes, queen c2, rook d1, and now queen takes c4, takes, queen f4, and the combination of knight and queen solves kind of puzzle for black because they're completely winning. Queen f3, queen f5, king h7, g6, but still requires some carelessness, careful play. So rook a3, queen d2, queen b4, h5, queen c5, knight d5, and now knight comes back to f4. And I mean, this position is just dominant just because black have 3 pawns for an exchange. So it's good enough to win the game. d5, pawn pushes, and now it was the final touch of the game. Queen f5, queen s6, queen g4, and now queen walks to g1, queen h1 is a checkmate. And one more game to show you is, again, we have English opening this time. Knight f6 d3 takes, g3, knight e7. I actually played an overboard chess game a few weeks ago, and my opponent played d3 and then a3 without knight c3 first. So go check it out because I didn't play d5. I decided to go for something else. I went for g6, bishop g7 setup, and then d6. But yeah, d5 was actually best, and Hikaru plays the best moves. He's top level player, not like I am. So knight e7, bishop g2, castle, bishop g7, rook b1, a5, just to disallow b4 option, but still b4 is played on the board, b5 takes. Now you can see this huge battery on g2, a diagonal, h6, bishop b4, rook c1 takes, and now he's trying to get rooks to a7 and bishop to c6, and it becomes a little bit complicated for black to play, and white couldn't come up with the plan either. Takes, g4, and it looks like Hikaru might actually win an exchange, but once again it wasn't good enough. Knight f5, Hikaru blunders, queen g4. So here basically queen cannot take because this rook is simply being threatened. So rook e5, queen g4, now takes, knight f3, and once again Denis is playing down an exchange, but he's in a favorable spot. Rook a1 takes, protects the pawn, rook c1, knight f5, e3, f3, e4, and as you can see, knight is just superior to both of these rooks. So this king starts at some point, walks over to e4 or e5, and now d6. It turns out that if c takes d6, rook c8 is a checkmate. And if rook f5, there's d takes c7, and then black will have to take, and this rook game would be lost. Now takes, and king f3, finally Kings joins the game. And 94, pawns are just too strong. 96 is a threat. There is nothing that you know, black can do much. C5, 96, king c7, d8, and queen promotes, and you can do whatever you want basically. King c5, king c3, then take this one, 5 of 6 of 7, and win the game. And surprisingly to many people, Denis Lazavik won this match. And in comparison to the last year where Hikaru, I mean, somewhat destroyed Hans, he is now number 4 top speed chess player. I mean, it is unbelievable. Once again, it was a very close match like it was yesterday, and once again Hikaru came very close to actually winning the match. Not winning, but equalizing in the end, and couldn't do it. He led the match against Alireza and could have played in the final against Magnus, but again couldn't do it. And as Hikaru gets older, these younger guys will come for him and will grab this title and will beat him in the semifinals first. But let's see what happened between Magnus and Alireza, because that's the match a lot of people have been waiting for. And that's a rematch of the previous final played in 2025. And d4 is played on the board. Knight f6, e6, bishop b4. We have Queen's Indian defense, bishop b7, knight h5, f5, castle, knight c6, d6, e5, takes. That's a game played in bullet time control, so I'll go fast through this. Queen d4, queen f6. Now, if let's say white are very careless, knight f3, and black queen a queen, so you gotta be extremely careful. So rook d1 is played, protecting the queen. Now queen h6, f4, knight f6, knight g6. And as you might see, dark squares are extremely weak, and of course Magnus takes advantage of it. King g5, and somewhat lets Alireza escape. H5 would have been best, but he plays bishop c8, which is, you know, looks like a logical move to prepare h5. Takes, knight c3, forking two rooks, takes, and now after takes, white have 2 bishops on the board. Bishop e6, bishop f7, knight e5. And now after h4, it turns out that Alireza turns the tables around. Takes, f4, now e5, threatening at some point, might even go bishop e4. And Magnus starts making mistakes. Bishop e6, bishop f5, and now Alireza plays bishop f3 mistake. So bishop f5 would have been best, and then it's, I'm actually curious, either e6 or, no, e6 probably doesn't work, but king d3 going for this endgame would have given Alireza huge advantage to get within 1 point from Magnus. I actually tuned in around this moment and I was watching, I was like, man, what is happening? And Magnus blunders again. Now rook f8 is extremely strong move, just because now what happens is rook f5 is a threat, and at bishop g4 there is bishop e4, and might not be the case. Wait, just bishop g2 apparently. Bishop e4 walks into rook c1. Yeah, now it's actually you have to take, and then queen e4 and bishop and queen once again down exchange, but have huge counterplay. So as opposed to it, rook d1 was played, looks logical. Queen g3 and Magnus slowly comes in. Queen f2 takes all the pawns, and now of course Magnus was unstoppable. Goes to the endgame where he needs to convert, takes, king d3, c4, c3, c2, c1, and now takes the pawn, and Alireza unfortunately blunders a queen, and Magnus got, well, 3 points advantage. And to wrap it up, that was the last game of this match. Again, very interesting one. So knight f6, and once again we have a different opening. This time Magnus with black pieces, c6, bishop g4, knight h5 trying to take the bishop, h3, back, knight f4, g6, king d6, knight d7, knight goes to f6, and king f8. Not going castle, but king f8, king g7, kind of potentially keeping rook on h5 just in case. So rook e1, rook e8, bishop d8, king g7, bishop b6. Huge problems with d4 pawn, potentially c5, starting to counterattack in the middle. Queen c5 takes, and this knight is pinned. You have to protect it. You go back, bishop d7, rook c8. And Alireza has a position ledge, like he is slightly better in this position. So you might ask me, why not g5? G5 is met with bishop e5 first. you don't get back with the knight because knight d7 and white win a piece, but instead you take this one. After takes, you can play knight h5, you can play knight g8, you can play knight e8, whatever you'd like. Let's get to the game. Bishop a4 attack, knight d7 takes, and now 2 bishops on the board. And soon Alireza got once again a win advantage. Bishop d5, bishop a3. Now bishop a3 is played for the reason of attacking d5, bishop takes, bishop b2, knight d6, rook d6, and here what Alireza had is bishop e8, but again, it's tough to spot. You're playing bullet game, you have 12 seconds on the clock, it's extremely complicated, and after rook e6, rook b2, rook e8, rook b7, you transpose to an endgame where you have just pawns moving in the middle, and this one will eventually stop, just because, let's say, rook e8, there is rook b6, and I would play 4 or 5 e6 next. But unfortunately, Alireza played knight g5, which was kind of smart, bishop c6, and Magnus got out. Bishop c6, h6 takes, and also played g5, and unfortunately it was too late. Now Magnus got 2 pass pawns, king f4, g5, king f3, king f5. Magnus takes the middle of the board, and just like that, Magnus wins the title for 2 years in a row. I'm not sure who won the event in 2024. You can let me know in the comments. But yeah, he's still the best. He's still the GOAT. He won the Blitz Chess Championship in Doha, and now he is, I mean, the GOAT. He cannot be stopped. I'm actually wondering when he's going to lose this title, because as long as he plays year after year, no one can beat him. Like, Alireza has gone very close to him multiple times, but he is still not there. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll post different videos this upcoming week, including my recap from OTB event, and this upcoming weekend I'm also gonna be playing in throughout the weekend. I'm gonna be playing in over the board chess tournaments. I'm gonna post recaps on that as well. Hope you enjoyed. See you soon. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.